Well, a lovely soul who's, in Christian jargon, newly converted and a husband. But I was talking to her last night. Well, I saw her chatting to her daughter. And I went and joined in because just lovely company. The daughter's about 8, I suppose. Good soul. And I realised, serious conversation. Mum is in fact telling her off. Now, Mum's a lovely person at the minute. I think she goes up and down. She's probably quite wild. They're new to all godliness, but beautifully new. But she's telling daughter off. And I realised daughter's in tears. So I said to Mum, don't tell her off when she does wrong. God does not tell us off in general when we're doing wrong. In fact, the enormous amount of wrong that many, many, many people are doing, God never even whispers to them that they're doing wrong. They become numb, you could say, to God telling them anyway, but, God's not on the scene, even from their perspective. In reality, of course, he is. They couldn't exist for one moment but for his thinking of them, but they don't know that. They're not living in that level of awareness. So I said, just encourage the good. Give her encouragement. When she does something good, say how good that was and why it was good, and how lovely that is to you that she's done such a lovely thing. And she'll continue to love and trust you, whereas when you tell them off, you make a division between the two of you. And she can't build on that, and nor can you. Don't think I quite said that last bit. That even you can't build on it. I didn't say that. In hindsight, I should have done, I suppose. But do you see? Encourage the good. Don't constantly tell them off about the bad. And I said to her, I'm not sure as I've really told my daughter off more than a couple of times. So far in her life, our relationship together. I don't think I've told her off more than a couple of times. 2 times. It might be 3 or 4, but, extremely low. Absurdly low. And only then because I've probably lost my equilibrium, I said, well, of course, if she's about to go in the road, you have to say, stop, don't do that. You get killed. And you could say that's a criticism. But let's be reasonable. That's an urgent danger, and if she gets it wrong, the cost to her is enormous. So, well, we're not going to let that happen, are we? So we are reasonable. But in general, in the vast generality of living, don't go telling people off. You can let them know if it's a cost to them, if it's a cost to you, or if it's a cost to someone else. Say, and not necessarily at the moment in the heat of when they're doing the wrong. God weathers that. God allows the most appalling wrongs. Because you can say he understands and steers the future of such, and I'm sure he does. And his important aspect is that he's not solving things by stepping in and vocally criticizing you, putting you right, telling you off, pressurizing you to do good in future as opposed to harm. Any more than pressurizing you to love him rather than not would be successful. It would just make a nonsense of love, wouldn't it? And so, amazingly, in general, our concern for, say, in this case, our daughter's future, prevents us from criticism, from telling them off. And then I told her how my son helped his friend when he suffered a loss of $300. I said to Taryn, my son, I said, did you halve the burden to this chap? He said, no, Dad, I only had 100, not 150. He just knew at that point that Dad was so impressed with his son, with Taryn. So impressed. And do you see, that's what builds a relationship. To know in your heart that this person values you, loves you. In this case, Marshall valuing and loving his son, Taryn. And Taryn's strengthened in life to do that which is good. And, of course, trust you. Trust you because in his heart he knows you value him. You want to care for him. You want to meet his true needs. That's the ideal. Can you capture that sort of trace of the ideal that we're trying to do? So just as we don't home in all the time on what's wrong and criticize and separate ourselves from everything because they're not up to standard, we don't separate ourselves from those we love and care for. We don't tell them off. We encourage all that is good. And we let them know how much we value them, not how much we disvalue them because they are doing something wrong. No way. They're children. Yeah, we weather the cost. And in the temporary present, that cost is quite high. Sometimes, I wouldn't say often, but it'll get a lot heavier if we separate ourselves from them and cause rift and division by vivid attention to their faults. Of course we can, and I think I did say to the lady, we can review the bad situation a bit later on when, not in the heat of the moment, say, well, how did you feel when you weren't generous to her? In fact, yes, the little girl had won some chocolate in some competition we had in the church and not shared it with, I think, her brothers, who are younger than her. And of course Mum's concerned for their welfare as well as the daughter, and she's telling her off, and daughter has all this tears of regret and I think tears too of being in the wrong. You want to be in the right. And you could say, well, this is good, so now she's going to be motivated in the future. Yes, but at appalling cost. We've apparently needed to cause her to be unhappy. Will she start to see me as an enemy because every now and again I cause her to be unhappy? Even for, quotes, her own good. It's going to take an awful lot of faith on her part to ride over that and still see me as loving and kind and totally on her side. She could very easily get the wrong impression that really I'm trouble, the heavy parent, the heavy teacher, the heavy policeman. Okay, I'm not suggesting that our police force can run a secular society that way. I'm not putting my attention to that at the moment. I might do it some future date, but not now, okay? But what I am concerned about is how we relate to the people we're loving and caring for. Don't criticize. Don't tell them off. Encourage all that is good. And because of the close relationship and love of you, they will find they are copying your goodness. They will simply mirror who you are, but they won't mirror who you are if you're a constant difficulty to them. They will move away. And that's what kids do very often in the world. They move away from their parents to where the pressure's rather less and they're much more free to do what they want. It's a lovely thing bringing up kids. And of course, beautifully, this lady I was talking to, she was receptive. She received what I said. And I tried in all my heart to do it in a way that wasn't criticizing her. I mean, on reflection, talking of it now, I realize it was critical, of course. And I wonder if I could have communicated it to her in a better way. But she's of such a good heart at the moment that I think I may have done more good than harm. And certainly daughter, who was still, I had my arm round daughter on my right side and talking to mum on my left. We were sitting down. And I was cheering daughter up, saying, "You're a lovely girl. You're going to be a beautiful adult. But it's like us, love, we're growing up. And we make horrendous mistakes. But that doesn't stop God loving us. Mum loves you." "I'm not certain," I said, "Mum loves you." And probably I should. You know, in hindsight, we could always do so much better, shouldn't we? But don't criticize your own effort. Don't point out to yourself the faults in it too much. You could say, "Oh, well, you won't improve if you don't do that." Well, I agree, that's true. But I don't want you to be discouraged. I want to encourage you. I want you to be an encouragement to you in doing all that is good. And overall, the conversation was lovely. Then we switched on to something else, and that was fine. She did say to me, very, very definitely at some point, "But what do you do when they're doing something wrong?" So it may be she hadn't quite heard me. She's got two things conflicting in her mind now. That it must be right to tell a person off for doing something wrong. But at the same time, it must be right to be encouraging them. So I guess I've left her with that warring opposite of ideas in a way. I think that means I've left her with a situation where I've introduced or reminded her of the obvious, that we want to be a great encouragement, and reminded her of the overriding importance of the love and the trust that this child must feel for her, and that it's not helped by criticism and being told off. There are times when it's urgent and you have to do something about it, and you tell them off quickly because you need a reversal of, you actually impose on them, maybe not to run in the road and hurt themselves, or not to keep hitting, their brother or something like that. I mean, there are going to be times you just have to tell them off in that sense. Don't do that, love. Now come along. Take my hand. Let's go and do the washing up, shall we? You can You can criticise to that extent, but don't give them a lecture where you hold this distance of relationship of dominance. They can't love you for that, you see. And it's as well to bear that in mind. Our whole purpose is to be a blessing, that they might have life and joy. And well, the very foundation of the very fabric of what life and joy is our relationship with others. In other words, we can't achieve it by damaging our relationship. We can only achieve it by strengthening and encouraging the relationship. I think that's it. What do you think? Thank you, Heavenly Father.